Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Slowcast. On today's Slowcast, we're going to be talking about the XP system. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I'll give you guys my opinion on the topic. Next up, after that, we'll be taking a look at First Look, the Ronimos, and my visit to Utrecht. What it was like meeting everybody, including K&G Richard, the entirety of Team Gelati, the entirety of Team Last Moment. A fun time. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail. Finally, a little bit of a piece on Ksenia. Is she underpowered? Is she overpowered? More importantly, what kind of tweaks does she need? More on that coming up. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, Ronimo dropped a bit of a bomb on us. There's now going to be an XP system in this game. There was much gnashing of teeth, there was some rejoicing, but most people got it crying in their sleep. I don't know why, though, so we're going to talk about that a bit today. Let's just explain what it is first. So the XP system works like XP systems in every single other game in existence. If you kill bad stuff, you get experience for it. The more experience you get, the more powerful you get. In this case, you get a 5% damage increase and a bit of HP. Now, what's cool about this system is that your entire team works towards it. So it's a lot like Heroes of the Storm in that sense. If you get experience, it helps the team. So this makes characters like Lone Star and other split pushers a little bit more interesting all of a sudden when they can suddenly get a lot of experience, even if they're far away from the team. A lot of people have been decrying this as the end of Awesomenauts. That this is over, that there's no good to come of this. And I'm here to say that they're wrong. Now, the way I'm seeing this is that yes, the system is currently borking the game. It's impossible to get numbers right the first time. Let's look at what Ronimo's had to do. Ronimo is looking at this game and going, okay, so Solar as a system on its own doesn't work. We need to put something else in here. Because currently balancing around Solar and Solar only causes there to be a footsie knock game, and that's not what we want our game to be. We don't want these 30-minute to hour-long slog fests that take forever. And let's face it, guys, that's our competitive scene. That's the whole competitive scene, and that's it. That's all. Nada. Niente else exists, except for the footsie. The best teams know how to stall out the longest, so that way they get the exact right moment. It's not so much a test of skill as it is a test of patience. And I'd like to borrow Egoraptor on this one. Just because the game forces you to be patient doesn't make it harder. It just makes it more aggravating. So, when it comes to this, they're thinking, okay, we need something that actually incentivizes being active, being aggressive, and being interesting, and the XP system does do that. You have to kill stuff in order to get stuff. It's that simple. Now, does it rely purely on Solar? No. And that's the other cool thing. If you have one person that's underfarmed because they go into a fight, but then they die, but then the rest of your team goes in and wipes out the rest of the team, guess what? You did good. And on top of that, your team got you experience that you can use to keep dealing more damage and staying in the game. On top of that, there's a bunch of other stuff that goes in, like, that can happen with the XP system. Denying with the Worm on Serona, now suddenly a lot more interesting, because not only are you getting experience for the droids that you're killing, but you're denying them the experience if they're too far away from the droids that they could be killing. On top of the Solar that you're picking up. Now, and as far as numbers go, again, guys, the game is not going to work out the first time. More importantly, it's the numbers, okay? The system itself, I don't think, is flawed. The numbers are flawed. Those need tweaks, granted. But I've seen a lot of posts on the forums, which I'm surprised, actually. I don't think I've seen a community like the Awesomenauts community so vehemently against change since conservative America. It's impressive. I have a difficult time explaining it. Like, my voice just doesn't want to come out. I've seen so much salt over this change and the ruining of this game that I can't help but laugh at this. Like, it's unbelievable. It's not going to ruin the game. The way I can tell, the best way I can explain this to you is by telling you my personal experience with it. when I played with Gelati and Richard and myself and, a couple of Ronimos here and there, no matter what happened with the game always felt fun. Okay, even if I knew we were behind, like it was a 2 and I was like 4-2, and my two teammates are like 1-6 and 0-6 or something like that. We still felt like we were part of the game. Like we could still do damage, we could still actually make things happen. And see, that is cool. Because when you're behind an Awesomenauts right now, you just kind of sit behind your turret and you kind of wait for your inevitable and ultimate death and demise. It's awful. It's not the best thing on the planet. In fact, I'd argue that's pretty shitty, if you don't mind my saying so. This way, at least it feels like you've got something you can do. Like, that's so good. That's so important. That's so nice to have, agency in the game that you're playing. The other cool thing about it is that it adds a rubber band mechanic. If you're really behind on levels, and I mean, like, really behind, it would take, 3 levels is rare. Okay? 3 levels happens, but it's one of those things where it's like, look, if it's happening, the other team's winning for a reason, okay? But, if you're behind on levels, if you get a couple of kills, boom, you're right back in the game. A couple of levels in a turret, you're ahead all of a sudden. This allows games to actually turn on their head. That's so cool. The fact that works in Awesomenauts is, a testament to the game itself. Like, it already happens. As long as you have the right team makeup, a late game team wipe can absolutely end a game. And that's exactly what you want in a competitive game like this. But the fact that this allows that to happen at almost any stage of the game is much better. Because now games are more interesting. Games can change on a dime. And if you're a good team, you have to continue playing well in order to actually win. You can't slack off. That's important, I feel. Especially in a competitive game. Like if there's a point where you can just go on and go, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore, and you'll still win, that's a flaw. That's not good. That's shit. If you stop playing a game and you win anyway, then it's like, what's the fucking point? Like, it happens sometimes in Dota 2, and I kind of look at the game and I go, what? But then I see good games happen, and I'm like, oh, okay. So, the team that did that ended up losing. And that's fine. Actually, I agree with that particular philosophical change. The biggest complaint people have is with the numbers in this case. Like, for instance, and here's a pretty borked one. Vinny can do over 1,000 damage without needing double Seahorse Head. There! I said it. That was the thing that you could do in the beta. These number changes aren't going to wreck the game because the good folks in the Awesomenauts community, like yourselves, I hope, will point them out. And more importantly, will go, hey, Ronimo, here's this number. It doesn't make sense. Here's how I think it would be at best changed. Constructive criticism, kind of important. Please do that. It's awesome. Everybody loves constructive criticism. No one likes people bitching at them. So you do that, the numbers will work out. And the system itself is a good one. It's got a lot of potential. One of the biggest reasons why I'm saying it's got potential, not only does it add more depth to the game, which is not a bad thing, because it's not hard to understand experience. Like, a new player can walk in and go, oh, experience. Okay, that makes sense. The more stuff I kill, the bigger and stronger I get. Piece of cake. Hell, Solar's more complex than that, because I have to pick coins up again. So, experience, easy to understand. Simple concept. But it adds depth to the game, because all of a sudden, games are more interesting, okay? Not only does it do that, not only will it allow easier balancing for Ronimo, because now they don't need to necessarily change the solar cost of a thing and then the raw damage of this upgrade. They can kind of go, you know what, no. Rocco's early game damage is a little bit too much, but we like the late game, so we'll change his base damage. Or, you know what, Ksenia's knives do too much damage late game. We'll scale the percentage on her knives damage increase down a notch, so that way it still does a fine amount of damage early game, and late game, when you have more damage for that percentage to be important, it does a little bit less. Like, that balancing tool, super important. Like, that's going to be great for balance. That's going to be fantastic. More important than all of that, the game feels fun again. And I cannot stress this enough, that when the game feels fun, that's the most important part. Like, even if you're losing, it's like, oh, well, I still feel like I'm a part of this. I still feel like I can win. Having that in your game is perfect. And this system, this XP system, which is not hard to understand, adds a lot of depth, increases the ability for stuff to be balanced. And not only that, let's talk about how it helps our teammates out. Like, if your teammate, like I mentioned before, dies going into fights, but that allows your team to wipe up the rest of the group, that's great. That's awesome. That means that your team still gets stronger for it, and that person might die less as time goes on. It rewards that aggressive behavior. Having that in the game will also mean that all this is more fun. It's faster. You don't have those 30-minute to 45-minute to hour-long slog-outs where you're just busy footsie nodding, waiting for that perfect opportunity. Now, you've got that moment where if you get even like two kills, if you're a high enough level, you can end the game. You can just go for their turret because turrets and droids don't scale, only you do. This system is going to be great. If you just, it's got the potential to be great. You just gotta give it the chance that it needs in order for it to properly grow, I think. And honestly, with your help, I think that this beta, this system, will work out just fine. And we're looking at a brand new game once this comes out. And I think it'll be a better one. I honestly do.
She's an adorable scout. She is a true awesome knight. She is both clever and charming. She is the darling of darlings. She is so foxy.
Let me tell you a little story about this awesome knight. Y'all better listen up now.
One day she was out of luck. She and the scooter got stuck. There was this station in space. She felt the sweat on her face, but she was still hard as nails with all her juicy details. And then she thought, instead of taking it slow, I better go with this flow. So let's ride the debris, and I will let them all see I am so foxy. Hey, I am so foxy. She's gonna make it. You cannot take it. She's gonna make you scream. If you won't get it, she's just gonna get it in your
Okay, so let's talk Utrecht. I went to visit the Ronimos a couple of weeks ago now, and it is probably going to be remembered as one of the coolest things I've done in my life for some time. What happened was on the Thursday night of, I think the 8th of October, I took a plane to Amsterdam, and specifically the Netherlands, but Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, and then from there I took a train to Utrecht. Total travel time took a few hours overall because I take the tube system over here in England and then so on and so forth. Overall, not long enough to deter me from doing it again. I would love to do it again. So I fall into my hotel bed, I wake up the next morning, and Robin greets me at the hotel. He takes me to Ronimo HQ where I meet Joost and Fabian and Tim and a bunch of other people. They are all super nice. I'd definitely love to meet them again. Even if I was hella awkward and super nerdy about it, I loved it. I've been wanting to meet Ronimo for a long time now. Being able to go to their offices, bit of a dream come true. So I was super excited about that, and I loved every minute of being able to do that. Now, there's some really cool stuff I saw. I can't tell you about all of it, but I guarantee you a lot of it really neat. And one of the things that I ended up seeing that has now been released, at least announced, is Wicked Coco. So that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's plenty more that I saw that I'm sure you guys will be excited about eventually. It's pretty awesome. So after that, I went with Koen and Jasper to tour around the city itself, and we ended up walking through Utrecht. Now, Utrecht is gorgeous. There's trees, there's rivers, it's clean, but there's bikes everywhere. Like, it was crazy. Like, bikes literally all over the place. There were more bikes than there were people walking and cars combined. It was impressive. We eventually toured the Sonic Picnic offices, and that was really cool, because I got to stand in the same studio as Jesse Cox did, and a bunch of other people who voice recorded for them, and got to meet a couple of people there, and it was really neat to be able to just see these people, because I'm being a guy who's really interested in sound and music. It was awesome to be able to see these people who had made such a great soundtrack and such a great sound come out of Awesomenauts. They did such an amazing job. Being able to meet these guys, pretty big deal for me. Once we'd done all that, we went back to the Ronimo offices, had lunch, and I got to meet with Team Gelati. I got to eventually meet with Last Moment later on. I met King Richard in person. We toyed with the XP system, and we play tested it a decent amount. It was the first time I played Awesomenauts in a long time, so I remember it fondly, obviously, but suffice to say, it was really good to be able to play with people again. Immediately after that, we went to a thing called First Look. Now, over the course of the next couple of days, First Look kind of took over my life. But this first day, it was special for Awesomenauts because we had a specific show match live on stage, and this was in front of an audience, like an actual audience, and a televised audience, specifically Twitch. So not TV televised, but, Twitch televised. It was super cool. We got to go up on stage. We had lights in our faces. Gelati and Last Moment both got on and got to, shit talk a little bit and all that stuff. Not that they did, though. That was the cool part. We were the only teams that didn't do that. And Richard and I got to actually spectate the game and announce it straight up. And what was really cool was that a lot of people said that we ended up doing a fantastic job. Just as a game, as casters, as players, we were a really impressive show. So I was really happy to hear about that. Ronimo was ecstatic to hear about that. Ecstatic about that. So we had this awesome show match. Both teams ended up walking away with 50 euros apiece per person. I meant, so 150 euros per team, which is really neat to have that happen. And after that, we got to actually go to First Look as visitors. Like, I got to tour it around with King Richard the next day, and we just painted the town red. We saw everything that we could see that wasn't like a 2-hour lineup. Things that were 2-hour lineup. Battleborn. Not that interested. Rock Band. I wanted to, but it was too long a lineup. The majority of the time I ended up playing around with the indie games because the lineups were much shorter and the games were a little bit more interesting. I found a couple of the really interesting games I thought, that I thought of anyway. One was called Luck Slinger. It was a platformer where you play as a cowboy. You got a duck that picks stuff up for you. But the cool part about it was that you pick up luck, and you can use luck on you can use up a bunch of your luck to kind of protect you at the last second, or you can rely on luck to save you from falling into pits and all that stuff. It was an interesting take on using luck as a resource rather than just an excuse to say, oh, well, I was just really unlucky. Well, you could have made yourself lucky if you had just pushed the button or if you had picked up enough luck over the course of the level. So there's that one. There's Bounce 'em Up, which I thought was a really interesting game concept. It's like pinball plus Smash Bros. Is the best way to put it. You shoot at each other, you bash into each other, and you bounce around this level like crazy. It's a ton of fun. There was also another one which was on an iPad, and you had to kind of shoot little bullets at each other and hopefully not get yourselves killed. But it was fast-paced. There's 2 people per iPad, so you can pick it up and play it with your friends on a moment's notice. It was a really solid game. Rusty Lake, you're stuck in a box, get out of it. Really weird, but lots of fun to kind of shout at and stuff. I'm hoping that I can pick it up and just have fun with it at some point. And yeah, there was a couple of games that I wasn't super impressed about, but for the vast majority, those are like the games that really stood out to me. And it was also really cool to hang around with the guys at Lethal League, at Reptile Games, play Lethal League with those developers, have a really great time with them. And probably the coolest part was the Awesomenauts booth. Again, because yeah, it's Awesomenauts. But on top of that, I got to meet a few people, and they're like, "Is that SlowWolf? Is he actually here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, apparently I'm here." So I got to talk with these people. I got to hang out with them. It was a ton of fun, super exciting, and I was super humbled when they asked for a picture with me. That was probably the highlight of the trip, all things considered. But I don't think I'll ever forget that. And I gotta ask a question. I hope, did the pictures turn out well? And do you regret them? That's important to me. I don't know why, but it just is. Ksenia is the newest not to have come out of the entire roster, and a lot of people are saying that she's underpowered. I beg to disagree. Ksenia is not underpowered, she's misunderstood. Much like Penny Fox before her, where everyone thought, oh, well, she's totally underpowered, look at her, you need to make her things more powerful. It only took a couple of weeks for someone to figure, hey, you know what, Penny, actually really strong. And then taking that character and slamming it into the metagame, much like someone would take a square peg and shoving it into a round hole while successfully turning the round hole into a square one. I'm thinking, Ksenia, baby, don't let anyone rush you. Don't let anyone change you. Like I said, you just misunderstood. You've got the highest burst out of any person in the game when it comes to single target. Your knives do more than a clunk explosion can. And that's given a little bit of accuracy. On top of that, because of your maneuverability, no one's safe. Ever. You thought that Rocco could pick off people from super far away? Yes, he can. But he can't pick off kills when people just aren't expecting it from right next to them for at least, 1,000 damage. If you're below half HP, you are not safe from a good Ksenia. Let me tell you a story. Mr. Pow, really good Raylan player, but little do you know, probably, solid Ksenia player. To the point where going 15-0 isn't an actually rare occurrence. It happens occasionally. And the reason why that happens is because people just underestimate this character. They see Ksenia and they go, oh, it's a frail, worse Leon. Well, you'd be wrong. She has more in common with Frog than she does with Leon. Yes, she has stealth. Yes, she comes out of it. Yes, she has a silence that goes with it. But you know what she does? She does burst. Frog's middle name is Burst, as far as I'm concerned, and both of them play the same. You have to wait for a good time to go in, get that kill, and then get out. And if you get it at the wrong time, you end up dying. So if you manage to fix your Ksenia play around that idea, maybe you'll get a slightly better chance. So Ksenia, baby, you're not underpowered. People just don't understand how you're supposed to work. You're not supposed to be in the middle of a team fight or helping out. You're supposed to be the asshole on the backside that manages to get the pick off at the last second and eventually gets enough farm that she can just kill people from scratch. You're not supposed to be the person that kind of goes and says, hey, you know what, I'll initiate with my silence. No, the silence is to make sure that your selfish butt doesn't get killed the instant that you pop out of stealth and not nail all those daggers. If you manage to nail all those daggers with the right upgrades, you can go right back into Vanish and just hide out for the next little bit while you get all of your daggers back and rinse and repeat, baby. Rinse and repeat. So, Ksenia, you're not underpowered. You're misunderstood. But more importantly, if you are going to get changes, for the love of everything that everybody holds dear, please keep them small, because otherwise we're going to have a serious problem on our hands, and that is not what people want out of Ksenia. Alright, now that wraps it up for this Slowcast. Thank you everybody so much for listening. If you guys like this stuff, let me know. There's a like, there's a comment, there's a subscribe button. All that stuff lets me know that this is pretty good for you as far as you like, as far as what your preferences are. But more importantly, I want to talk about stuff that you want talked about. So, if you guys want something specific, let me know. Tell me. I've got my email, slowwolfgame@gmail.com. I've also got the comment section. I read them fairly religiously. And if you guys have anything that you guys want me to rant about, or want me to have an opinion piece about, or any questions at all, please don't hesitate to put them down. I'm that kind of guy. Once again, thank you everybody so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next Slowcast. Later!